Hello, welcome back to Tekla Structures. I'm Maurice Dimba, and today I'm going to show you how to create anchor bolts and pad footing components. These two will help you shorten your time in modeling and creating your anchor bolts plan layout drawings. Join me and let's get started right away. If you take a look at the screen here, you can see a grid line in place by default. We've not modified this. This is a US environment. Now, we are going to create anchor bolts components so that we don't do it repeatedly whenever we design a structure and the first request people request for the anchor bolt plan layout, so you can generate that independently prior to completing your structure. So you can do that simply by creating these components and including them inside your library. So you just pick them and place them inside your grid. Now, here we are. I'll come to grid line here, and now I want to set out my points that will be guiding me in placing the bolts that will be defining the anchor bolt set or component. Now, I'll come to edit here and come to points. Now I'm going to use these points to guide me in where to place my bolts, by what height should they go, or defining the length of my bolts in short. Now I'll come to at any position here. I'll snap on that spot. If I zoom close, you can be able to see it's blue. That's meaning it is on a 0, 0 level, so that's why it's blue. Now I want to offset this point by 125 millimeter. So I'll select on it, right click and come to spatial copy. I'll pick on linear. So once I've picked on linear, I'm going to check which axis am I going to offset this point to. If you take a look on the bottom end here you can see the y-axis is actually pointing me or pointing us. So we'll get rid of the axis. We have to change everything to 0 except the axis we are offsetting to. Now in this particular case or situation, we are offsetting this point in y-axis. So only y-axis will be having a number, the rest will be 0, 0. Now I want to offset this by 25 millimeter. So I'll go ahead and click OK. So you'll be able to see it has been given an offset of, or we've generated a copy of this point away from the original by 125. So we need the same, the opposite direction. So we don't need to repeat exactly the same what we've just done. So I'm just going to select on this point, then right click and come to copy here and pick and select on copy, then select this point and place it right there. So we've created two copies with different approach. So if you take a look here, we can measure this from this end and this end. We can see it's 250 millimeter. So we've added 125 by plus 125 to get that. Now I want to offset this again by 125 millimeter. So I'll press Control while selecting the first point and select this one. Right click and come to spatial copy and click linear. So we want to create another copy on x-axis. So we have to change y-axis to 0, because if we use both axes, having a number will not be we will not be heading to our destination. Every axis will be trying to grab it to its own direction using the same dimension. So everything must remain 0 if you're working with a particular axis. Now in this particular case, I'm going to copy this on the x-axis by 125 millimeter. So I'll go ahead and click copy. So you can see that we are still duplicating this on the y-axis. I wanted just to try that so that you see what I'm talking about. So let's go back and click undo and come back and just cut this and take it to the x-axis. I'll paste it there and then click OK. So you can see this on the x-axis as pointed by this XYZ axis here. So we want to copy this the other end. Let's select this and hold these two from these 2 points, from this point, and now we have this in place. So if you take if you grab a tape here and try measure that, you'll be able to see it is 250. So we want to copy this 4 points up by 500 millimeter. This will be defining the height of our bolts, anchor bolts. Now I'll select these 4, then come to special copy and select linear. So I'm going to change this to 0, and now I'm going to work with the z-axis. But in this particular case, you're going in the positive direction of the z-axis, as you can see here. Now we'll not prefix this dimension with any minus sign or a negative sign. So I'll just type in 500 here, right there. And I'll go ahead and click copy. So we have these 2 points up. So, but unfortunately, we've left 1 point. So it's easy to get that point. Just select on this, right click, and come to copy and hold it from that end, and you'll be able to get that copy on top there. So from here, we are going to place our bolts, our anchor bolts. So I'll come to applications and component button here and select on it. So once I've selected on that, I'll come here and select on ungrouped items. I think here is the point we'll be able to get the anchor bolts. So in any particular case, or in a situation where we cannot get them, we can go ahead and select and try to track them wherever they are. So I can pick this. I can either pick this or pick this. So it's upon you to pick which particular one do you want to use. So we'll use this. I'll double click. Once I've double clicked, this dialog box of Tekla structure anchor hook rod will appear, and this is where you'll be able to place your parameters. By what length do you want your anchor bolt to have? So I'll define from that spot and this spot. So I'll create an anchor bolt on that spot and create another one. I'll close that, click, and create another one here. Perfect. And create another one the other end. And create another one here. So if I come to view and come to navigate, if I turn this around, you can be able to point out something slightly not correct. So we can change that. So what I'm going to do, it's very simple. I'll change this. I'll now close this or minimize that. So we have this in place, and I want to rotate this so that these two hooks face the opposite direction. So I'll go ahead and select on this. Then once I've done that, I'll right click and come to special move and come to rotate, and I'll define my rotation using these 2 points as my rotation, and I'll click on that spot and click OK. So you'll be able to see it has turned on the other way round. So I'll come here and do just the same thing. I'll come to move, special rotate, then I'll snap on that spot and that point and turn that the opposite direction. So this is how the bolts now look. Now I want to place a bar that will be binding these 4 bolts, so that when the casting is being done, these 4 bolts will not change their dimensions. So in short, this binding bar will make sure that the measurements are not interfered with, however much disturbed by a vibrator when doing the casting. Now let me come here and now place my binding bar. I'll come to steel. I'll come to steel right there and come to polybeam. So I'll select my polybeam and start defining my binding bar from that spot. Go all the way to that spot, and to that spot, and move all the way to this spot, that spot, and this spot. Then I move all the way to this far end, define that, and define this, and define that. Then I'll move all the way to this point, and terminate it here. Let's see what you're going to receive, and this is actually what I'm expecting. Now if I double click here, and I'll be able to see that we have a rod, 16 millimeter rod. So I'm going to close that. I'm going to remove that. Now in here, I'll come to view, come to navigate, select rotate by mouse. Remember, let me repeat once again, if this could be your first video to bump into in this channel, and maybe you are looking on how to rotate a model. So to rotate a model, just come to view, come to navigate. If you come to navigate here, you'll be able to see a drop down arrow. Click on this drop down arrow, pick the first option, and pick rotate with mouse. Select on that. So the moment you select on that, you'll be able to read at the bottom end here, Tekla Structures asking you to pick a position. Picking a position means pick your rotation point. So the moment you pick your rotation point, just press your left button on your mouse and move your mouse like this. So I'm going to point at this as my rotation point. Like that, you'll be able to see this circle. So just press. The moment you see a hand of a human being, a representation of a human being hand, press left button on your mouse and just move it around. You'll be able to rotate your model comfortably like that. Now I need a binding bar, around 2 of them, that will be welded across or around these 2 bolts, that will make sure the center to center of these bolts are not interfered with. Now once I've selected on that, right click and come to special copy, and I'll come to linear, or let me just move it down. I'll come to special move here and click special move, then I'll click move. After feeding that dimension, you've seen there -100, because we are moving in the opposite direction of the axis. Now from here, I still want to take it down slightly, because I'll just leave it on that spot. There's no need of taking up anymore. So I just need another copy of this. So once I've selected on that, I'll come to special copy here and click linear. So once you click on linear, you'll be able to see this copy linear dialog box, and inside here you'll be able to feed in the center to center distance of your copying of how many number of this binding bar, and at what distance do you want to copy them. Now I want to copy this at 150 millimeter, and I need 3 or 2 of them. So I'll go ahead and click copy, but it has gone up, which was never my intention. So I'll come here and prefix this by negative sign so that we move down. So I'll click on that, and we'll have this already fixed. So we have our anchor bolts in place, bound together, and will be submitted to workshop once we finalize with everything, so we can generate the drawing and submit these to workshop for fabrication and be taken to site for fixing, or when the casting being done, they make sure all these are fixed first prior to casting of the pad footings. Now I'll come to navigate and rotate this. So this is actually what we wanted. So we want to make this as a component, so that whenever we are doing the modeling, we don't do this repeatedly. So we want to create this component and include this inside our Tekla structures library, so that it is part of our modeling library requirements, or part of Tekla structures as customized by me or you or any other person that is interested in doing a similar thing. Now once you've done this, just go ahead and come here. Once you've done that, just right click, just minimize that, right click, and click new group. Once you've done doing this component manually, so we want to create a component. Just type component and click OK. So once you've done that, just come here, right click, or don't right click, just left click and come to define component. Click on that. So this custom component wizard will come up. We have 4 steps depending on what type of work do you plan to do with inside here. So in this case, we are going to create a component here, that a component that we want to include in our library, that we will be reusing repeatedly. We'll be using it several times. So we are just making a shortcut of just pulling it and placing it on our library. Now I'll click this type and I need part. So what I'm going to write here, I'm going to define it as my anchor bolt, right there. Anchor bolt, maybe 3 space anchor bolt 3, right there. Now this is the name we've given it. So once you've done that, just put it in a position that it doesn't block you in any way. So I'm going to click next. So the moment you click next, you'll be able to get the information here. Component objects in the model, select object that will form the component, the custom component. I'm going to select everything here. So once I've done that, I'll go to next step. I'm going to next step right there. So I forgot to define 1 point. I'll force me to go back slightly. I'll go back slightly. So once I've done that, I'm going to define a point here, placement point. I'll come to edit and I want to correct that prior to making a move. So I'm going to get a center point of this, and I'll define that. So I'm going to select on this point, and I want to take it down by, I want to move it down by 100. I want to move it down by 100. I want to move it down by 100, so I'll click that. Okay. So prior to doing that, let me come to navigate and see if it is the same level with this binding rod. So let me just take it up slightly by 50. I'll move it up by 50. Let me move it up by 50. Perfect. And come back to navigate and try check it whether it is in the best position. Perfect. It's not bad. It's not bad. Or we can still select on it and take it down by slightly 20 millimeter down, right there. That spot is okay. So let's just close this or just leave it on that spot. So I'm going to select move, and I'm going to pick this position right here, select on that, and I'm going to click finish. So once you've done that, just come here and you'll be able to see this in place. So prior to making any step, just come here and try whether this is working. It is not working because we terminated that process in the middle because we were correcting something. So what we are going to do, we are going to do another one. So we are going to delete that. We are going to delete that and do a fresh one because we were interfered with because we were creating something right inside the middle of the process of creating this component. So don't worry, this is the way you learn. And I'll come to edit once again, and I want to create that this midpoint here. I'll snap on that spot and come all the way to this end, and I want to take this point down by 80 millimeter down. So I'll just feed in here 80 right there, and take it down there. Perfect. Now what I'm going to do here, just click there, come to define custom component. I'll come to I'll select part, and I'll come here and type anchor bolt maybe 3 or 4. That will be okay, and I'll go ahead and click next. So I'll select everything here, then I'll go ahead and click next, and I'm going to pick the midpoint here. I'll go ahead and click finish. So the moment I click finish, you'll be able to see we have anchor bolt 4 here. So prior to making any step, we are going to try whether it is working. I'm going to select on it and pick a point right there, and you'll be able to see it's actually working, but it doesn't have an image. It's not having an image of an anchor bolt. So what are we going to do? We are going to do one simple thing. We are going to, let me first of all delete this. We are going to do one simple thing. We are going to create an image here. Let me hide that prior to moving any step further. I'll come to navigate, and I want to put this in a position that when you create a screenshot, the image will come out more accurate and more appealing, or more attractive. Now let me do that. So I'll come to screenshot under view. I'll come to screenshot and click screenshot here. So prior to making a screenshot, make sure here is pointing print to file, because printing to file will direct this generated image to the folder of this component. So come to option here and make sure the background is white. You don't pick the background of Tekla structure. So just go ahead and click apply once you've done everything right. Then come to pick view, select on that, then define your view here. Select, pick view, select and drag, and snap somewhere here, and terminate it somewhere here, then click capture. So the image has been captured, and you go ahead and close that. So what we are going to do, we are going to track the image we just snapped here. So I'll come to that spot and pick that, and you'll be able to see we have it right here. So what do we do? Just double click on it. So once you've double clicked on it, we want to crop it, and you come to crop here and just play around with this. Just drag it, trim it like that, and leave it on that spot. So what you are going to do, just save the copy. So once you save the copy, just give it a name, anchor bolt, just like that, or 4. So you go ahead and save it. Remember, it's not saving on that, but we'll take it right there. So I'll go ahead and click save. So once it's saved, just close this now. We'll go ahead and copy it here. We'll go ahead and track it from our desktop here. I'll come to logos here, and I'll now come to it here and right click and come to cut, then go back to my folder and the Tekla structures here, and I'm going to open this component and come to screenshot, and I'm going to paste it here. Remember, this was the original that we screenshot on our Tekla structures, so we can get rid of it by just deleting it, because this one is the modified or cropped one. So I'll go ahead and close this. So what we are going to do, I'm going to select on this, just right click and come to thumbnail here, then add thumbnail, then we are going to pick on this and click open. So the moment you click that, just disable the default one, then the moment you disable, it will appear here. So click close. We are done, and right click to make everything reappear. Now we are going to create we are going to create, let me first of all delete that. We are going to create a pad footing. A pad footing, so that I try and show you how you can apply this for your building or your simple steel structure. Now I'm going first of all to place my pad footing first, then I insert my anchor bolts. So once that has been done, you generate a drawing and submit that to the relevant people. Now I'll come here and type pad footing because I had generated that using the same way. So this is the pad footing I created, and now I want to apply it on my plan. So if I click on that, you'll be able to see it is actually not appearing, and there's something wrong that we have to do. That one was not working, so let's look for another one. Footing. So I'll select on this, and if I try here, we have this one is having a problem because we interrupted the process. I interrupted the process while creating that. So if the moment you interrupt it, it will not work. So I'm going to place that here, and place another one here, and place another one, place another pad footing right there, place another one there, all the way to that end. So there's another way of doing this thing neatly. So I'll just press Ctrl Z so that I get rid of repeating everything that way. So I have this in place, my pad footing in this place. So I'm going to look for my anchor bolt 4. I'll just type my anchor bolt right here, anchor bolt 4. So I'll select on it and I'll point it right on top here. So the moment I point it right on top here, you'll be able to see I've placed my anchor bolt automatically, and you'll be able to see that already in place. So let me just minimize that. So if I come to navigate and turn this around, you'll be able to see I have my pad footing without coming to the menu bar to create that. I have everything in my library, and I'll be able to do that automatically. Whatever I'll be creating is just the plinth beam that will connecting these column bases to column base on the other end. Now let me just select on this, select this, and press Ctrl and select that. So I'll come to move, select on that, and I want to copy this from that spot, and I copy this to this spot. So you'll see me placing all this pad footing with all the anchor bolts in place. So I'll select on that and select the bolts. I'll come to copy and select in here and place another one there, place another one there, place another one here. So that's the way you do it. That is a simple way of doing it. Select on that, press Ctrl and select on that, select on that, select on that, select on this, then press Ctrl, select on that, select on that, then press Ctrl and select on the bolts. So I'm going to select on this, press Ctrl, then snap on that spot and come all the way and snap right here, and you'll have your bolts in place. You have your anchor bolts in place, and I'm going to do the same thing here. Press Ctrl and select all this, zoom out and select that, right click and come to copy, and I want to copy it from that spot, and I'll go all the way to that spot right away. So I'm going to place my plinth beams around here so that we can have a full a complete anchor bolt plan layout. Now I'll come to concrete and come all the way. I'll come to beam here and click on the beam. So I'll start placing my beam from that spot and terminate it right here. So prior to doing that, I'm going to continue placing my beams. So the next correction, I'll be doing it one go. Select that, then terminate it right here. Select that, terminate it right here. Select that, then terminate that right here. But remember, these beams, this plinth beam should be cutting across the column bases. I'll snap on that spot, or we can just go all the way to this far end and place it right there. Do the same thing here. Start all the way, or you can start it from that end and you stretch all the way to this far end and start. You can start from that spot, not that way. We can just go ahead because I've demonstrated how to go about it, or I can just get rid of this so that we get we stick to our uniformity. Just delete this and come back to concrete and pick the beam. Once you've picked on the beam, we want to place a beam right here, a plinth beam right there, and a plinth beam right there, and a plinth beam right here, and a plinth beam right here, all the way to that spot, and all the way to that spot. Just connecting these column bases together. Another one there, and another one here, and another one here, and another one here. So we'll move like this till we get to the last column base right there. So I'll select all these, press Control. I'll select all these and press Control. Select that, press Control and select that, and select that. So I want to bring it down by 100 millimeter. I'll take it down by 100 millimeter or 80. It will be okay, and that's okay. So there we are. We have our plinth beams already in place. So this is how it looks. So if I come here and double click on the screen here and change this to 180, change this to 180, and I change this to 0, I'll be able to see an elevation of this. You can see this. So this is what you'll have on your elevation if you try to create drawings from this. So if I switch back to my plan view, this is what I'll be able to see. This is what I'll be able to see. Let me change to my isometric view and turn that. This is how it's done. And thanks a lot for watching this video. And if this is your first time to bump into this channel, please don't forget to subscribe and be safe, stay home, and bye bye. Thank you. I'm Morris Dimba, and let's meet then.